If you want to invest in residential real estate, there's something that you really need to understand and get a grasp on, and that is borrowing power. If you want to build a large property portfolio, you really need to understand how borrowing power in lending works and how much money the banks are going to lend you and what you can do to increase that borrowing power. My name's Thomas O'Regan, and between me and my wife, we have an 11 property portfolio and we've built it in over the last 3.5 years. Now, borrowing power is something that not many people know how to use to their advantage. Now, what most novice investors do is they'll go out and find out whatever their borrowing power is at the bank, usually, and say, for example, it's a couple and they earn 180 grand combined, and they go to the bank, and today their borrowing power might be around $900,000. Now, what the novice investors then will normally do is they'll go out and buy a property and get a $900,000 loan. Now, if you want to build a large property portfolio and you want to get as much or get get the largest asset base as possible, and take that asset base through a market cycle, what you effectively want to do is you want to, as you acquire property, you want to increase your borrowing power as much as you possibly can. And the way I do this is, instead of going and buying one property for $900,000, I will buy multiple properties, say maybe 4 properties that are all renting out for, say, around $23,000 per year, or $450 a week, around $450 a week to $500 a week, depending on what I can find in their marketplace at the time. And basically, each property I buy will increase my total income, my income that I work at my job, and my rental income will increase every time I buy a property for about 23 grand. So if I buy 4 properties, my total income that I've increased beyond what I'm earning at my job would be around just under 100 grand. So what has that actually done? So if I bought 4 properties, and all, like, the total debt that I got to acquire these 4 properties was around 900K. So maybe I got 4 properties around $300,000, and I used a 20% deposit on all of them. And then, my total debt would be around 900K still. But instead of just buying property and not increasing my income, I've increased my total income by around about $100,000. Meaning that when I go back to the bank next time to buy more properties, they won't say, hey, Tom and Belle, so you've just used up all your borrowing power, you can't get any more debt. Instead, because we've increased our income, our total income, from 180K plus 93K or 100K of rental income to now it's $280,000. The bank says, hey, actually, your new total allowable debt, your new total limit of debt is more like $1.7 million. So that's cool, awesome. What can we do with that? We can go out and buy some more properties. So every time you buy properties, try and do the maths, do the calculations to figure out, is this property going to help me in terms of cash flow, in terms of borrowing power, buy the next property? Because if it doesn't, what you will effectively have to do is you'll have to go to your boss and ask him for a raise. And that's the only way that you'll be able to unlock more borrowing power to buy the next property in your portfolio. There's either, you can either do that, or you can just hope and pray that the interest rates will go down. That will unlock more borrowing power as well. Or you could pay down some debt. Now, I wouldn't recommend if you're trying to if you're in your accumulation phase of your property portfolio, I wouldn't recommend paying down debt because what what's better to do with your money than pay down debt if you're trying to accumulate property is to save for a deposit to buy the next property. That's the best thing you can if you're in the accumulation phase of your portfolio journey. Save all your money, all your excess money should be saved to acquire more property. And basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to manage your borrowing capacity at the same time as growing your property portfolio. And every time you buy a property, you're trying to preserve your borrowing capacity. Because in residential real estate, how far you go in residential real estate comes a lot down to what is your borrowing capacity. And if every time you buy a new property, you're increasing your total income in terms of what you earn at your job plus your rental income by a large portion, then you will effectively be able to buy more property, create a larger asset base than someone that is buying properties that do not have very good rental income. So that's a little bit about borrowing capacity today. Hopefully it helped. Anyway, if you like it, just chuck a like or a thumbs up, and I appreciate that. Thanks. Bye.